Hi, I'm Marc Stoudemire, and welcome to Season 3 of Get to the Joke. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for you this season. 11 new comics, 11 new stories, unbelievable amount of just advice and just vulnerability about the lives of comedians and how that translates to the jokes that you love to hear on stage. Again, all the content this season will be completely free on my YouTube channel. I just ask that you do me just one small favor. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Please rate and review me wherever you review your podcast. I truly appreciate that you guys do that for me. Again, you can also visit me at my website, marcstod.com, where you can see all my upcoming show dates, along with any other content that I put out. Again, please leave a comment, like, subscribe to this channel. It means so much to me that you do that. And now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the joke.
So I have a medium dick, which means it can communicate beyond the grave. Medium dick is fucking stupid. Oh, man. Oh, God. So they say Mountain Dew ruins your semen. I have no idea if this is true, but I'll tell you one thing for sure. Semen definitely ruins your Mountain Dew, right? Makes it taste like Code Red Mountain Dew. Baja Blast. Which reminds me, I used to date this girl. She did something really gross with my cum. She had a kid with it. We were supposed to get it aborted, but she was a Republican, so we shot it instead. Get into her womb, you know. Carrying a rope of some sort. I don't know. I'm a little worried. Oh, man. Abortion jokes. Where do you go after abortion? McDonald's. That's where I go. Not a sponsorship. Just that's, you lose a little weight. But I was going to do my joke about late-term abortion, but it always dies during the delivery, you know? Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
All right, welcome back to Season 3 of Get to the Joke. Our guest today is reigning Philly's Funniest champion, Joe Murdock, who's been doing comedy for a decade in Philadelphia. Joe is known for his rapid-fire one-line jokes that run the gamut between dark and filthy to just plain goofy and absurd. So, Joe Murdock, welcome to Get to the Joke.
Hey.
How's everything with you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing all right.
That's good, man. Are we live from your house right now? You're in West Philly,
Yes.
right?
Yep, this is West Philly. Where are you at?
Pottstown? Does that make sense to you? Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny how many people from Philly have no idea where Pottstown is. So sometimes they gotta be like, it's near KOP, and then they know where I'm talking about. So.
Yeah. One of those areas. Yeah.
This is an honor. It's first of all, congratulations for winning Philly's Funniest and being the champion. I like the fact that you won. You're probably the first winner that I know that I've seen. I've seen you throughout the scene. A lot of these other Philly's Funniest winners, I either started after they, had won or, whatever, or they're in Philadelphia for that year, like Abby or Jamie, and then they move on to other things or whatever. So I thought you were a great story to win. I love your jokes. We're going to get into that because
thank you.
There's no one that does what you do, and you're very you're very unique and you're very talented for the jokes that you come up with. They're very smart, and we're going to get into all that because I would love to pick your brain and figure out how it works and how you come up with these things. I like to start out though first, like a chicken in the road situation, chicken in the egg situation. I mean, what came first in your life? The cognizant realization that you were funnier than other people, or that stand-up comedy was a career that you could pursue?
Probably the idea of being funny, I
Okay.
guess, right?
Were you a class clown type, or were you somebody that was just
Kind of.
like,
I was a
okay,
class weirdo. I mean, yeah. I was, just like getting reaction out of people. But yeah, I don't know if I was the class clown, but yeah, kind of.
yeah,
I was
now
weird in school.
now you're weird. What does that mean? You were weird in school? What is that? I wouldn't consider you somebody who's like weird. I would consider you somebody.
No?
No, I would say
No?
like, if people I think when you do and you tell jokes, I can see where people could be like, what, I'm not sure what I'm watching here, or who this person is. But when I get to know
Yeah,
you, I
that
wouldn't
happens a
consider you
lot.
somebody. You're very personable. You're not awkward when I talk to you. You don't try to like divert eye
Yeah.
contact or hide in the corner somewhere. No, I wouldn't consider you weird. So why did you think you were weird in high school?
I was a little more shy back then because I don't know. I wasn't doing anything that I wanted to do. So when I started doing comedy out more on stage, that
Mhm.
then it probably made me a normaler person in a way, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Uh,
That's
I
why
feel
I'm
like
so
that's
boring right now.
no. We're just getting to know each other a little bit. We're just getting to know each other a little bit. So
Yeah.
now, were your parents funny? Where did this sense of humor? You have a very unique sense of humor where I would say your ability to make fun of different words. Like you're very good with you take you're taking the audience down one road, and then all of a sudden they're on a totally different road. They don't know how they got there, but
Yeah.
it just makes sense to them why they're on that new road. So where did this come from? Was it stuff that your friends, like, was it something that you picked up with your friends? Was it something that your parents were into? Was it influences in your life? Where did this kind of innate
Oh,
style of your humor come from?
well, I mean, I watched a lot of the Three Stooges growing up, and the Naked Gun, that kind of thing. Um, I look at these people and I thought that they were pretty funny, and kind of learned my own style of comedy from seeing a lot of different kinds of comedy. So yeah, it kind of came from more I mean, my parents are kind of funny, but they probably have their influence on me in one way or the other. But a lot of the silliest stuff was like, yeah, the Three Stooges or the
Okay.
Looney Tunes or some shit like that.
What do your parents think of this? I know you have a day job, but your passion and your energy and your time is spent developing and honing
Yeah,
stand-up comedy. So
yeah, yeah.
what has been their support, lack thereof, buy-in, influence with that whole career?
Oh, recently they've been a little more supportive, because I'm doing everything right and stuff. But
What happened
early
before?
on they weren't sure. Well, originally I wanted to like make movies and stuff, like
Mhm.
write and direct, and that's kind of a tough thing to do. And I've never really gone in that direction in an effective way. But yeah, I mean, just like any other parent, they're a little worried. It's what I cared about when I was a kid. But I'm okay. I'm safe now. I'm alive, so they're happy for that.
Yeah.
They're glad that I'm happy and doing what I want to do.
Well, kind of walk me through that. What were you doing stand up? How long did you tell your parents that you wanted to do stand up and then did it, or were you doing it for a little bit and then kind of like came and was like, oh, by the way, I'm doing stand up? Then you kind of sprung it. Like, how'd that conversation go? When did you?
Well, I mean, I'd been telling jokes I would write them down and tell them to people in school sometimes, and
Yeah.
friends of ours and stuff. And so they knew I wanted to do it. But but until I moved to like Philly, I didn't really start doing it seriously, So
Were they not on board until you won Philly's Funniest? Was that the first validation?
oh no.
Okay.
I think it was a little before that. I think
Okay.
as it kind of realized it wasn't a phase or anything,
Yeah.
then it was a little more, they were a little more supportive of it and accepting of it, because it's a weird thing to do, but now I'm doing stuff with helium, so
Yeah.
it's a little more
But
stable.
I mean, so if did you go to school for like movies? I'm not sure what would that be called. Like, did you go to school for what
No,
did you go to school
no.
for?
I until high school ended, I didn't actually go to college. I
Oh,
know
okay.
that. Do I seem like I went to college?
You do. You do.
Good.
You're very smart.
Thank you. Thank you. I should have probably went to college.
So did you start seriously pursuing stand-up right out of high school then? Was that initially like as soon as you turned 18 and got that diploma, you were hitting the clubs?
No, because I wasn't in the vicinity. It took me a couple of years after that to go out and start doing stand-up. I, had to move a little closer to the city and into Philly,
Yeah.
But I was pretty young. I was like 22 when I started. But yeah, I should have started right out, but I just couldn't get out there,
Yeah. Well, it's tougher
where I
when you're
was.
trying to get into bars and you're 18 years old. So
Yeah, I
give
mean,
yourself a
there's
little grace.
people, I'm not going to call anyone out, but there's
Yeah.
people who've managed to do that, and,
Yeah.
very brave souls,
Yeah.
But I just kind of had to find myself getting out into the regular world before that, and then finding my way to, because I kind of, I wasn't too close to anywhere that was doing it at the time. I didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
And then I started going to open mics, and then people told me where everything was. You slowly discover things,
Yeah. Now, with your parents, what is it that you think that didn't get them on board right away? Especially if they saw that you're making these moves, you're moving from Jersey to Philadelphia, you're skipping out on college so that you can go and pursue stand-up comedy more seriously. What is it? What's your parents have like a more like a blue collar work ethic that they expected that of you? Or because I talked to other comics and it seems like the vast majority their parents are on board day one kind of thing.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So I'm interested because I relate similar to what you're talking about right now, so I'm interested in learning a little bit from your end.
I think I was just so focused on it, and I didn't it seemed like I would goof off maybe sometimes in school and I'd be joking around. So I think they were, I don't know if they were troubled by it, but I guess they just thought, no, that's not a real thing. You can't really do that. It's tough to do.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's a really hard profession to do. And the fact that you beat out hundreds of comics from not just Philadelphia, but around the Philadelphia area, there's something that's definitely a feather to put in your cap. So I hope you are proud. Now, have you ever experienced did you ever experience an issue where your parents were asked what you did for a living and they would either lie or they'd be they would always be like, he's a comic, or did you catch them kind of giving another line out of what your life was like?
I think they've started to say I'm a stand-up comic,
Okay.
Yeah. They've definitely said that I'm out here doing that. The people that know that, that I went to high school with.
Yeah.
Went to go see me when I was in Harrisburg or something, the comedy zone.
Cool. So I'm trying to think here's this 22-year-old kid and he's moving to Philadelphia because he wants to take a serious stab at the stand-up comedy world. What was your life like at that point? Because you're so young. I don't know what job you're working at the time. Philadelphia is not a cheap city to live in. What was kind of the motivation to kind of really take a stab at this versus whatever living conditions you were dealing with or whatever? Give me a little bit about 22-year-old Joe Murdock and the realization that you're a 22-year-old comic in the fifth biggest city in the country. Give me a little bit of that flavor.
Well, I had to start leaving. I mean, I was living with my dad for a little while, and
Mhm.
I moved out. Or I would start going out late at night,
Mhm.
and he'd start getting upset because I'd be out so late sometimes, and I wouldn't want to come back, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and just after a while, it's like I gotta move. I gotta move into North Philadelphia,
Okay.
and that's where I lived for a few years in Germantown.
Uh-huh.
That was rough, kind of. But I made it through, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where I lived when I was kind of discovering everything and how it works.
Hmm. Explain that to me. Explain that it was rough and I made it through. It sounds like somebody that came back from a war talking about. Well, give me a little bit. That's a life.
Well,
That's a
it
life.
was not the best part of Philadelphia I've lived
Yeah.
in. It was
Was
the first place I lived in Philly, and it was pretty bad actually.
yeah. Bad in the
But
way of it affected you directly, or just things that you observed happening around
well,
you
I
that were
mean,
pretty.
one person punched me in the face once,
Jeez.
but yeah, a couple things like that happened, but it was what people expect Philly to be like if you're not from Philly.
Yeah.
Is that area at that time about 10 years ago, right? 13 years
Yeah.
ago. Geez.
Well, how long were you
And
there for then? How long were you in that situation?
well, let's see, a couple of years,
Hmm.
right? Everything kind of blurs over time. And because I moved to another place in North Philly, it was a little better though.
Yeah.
And
So
same landlord, he just moved me to a different place.
how were
He
you
wasn't
support?
really a legitimate landlord. I could, know.
Tell me about the apartment that you were in. I now so you're giving me little bits here.
Upstairs of a furniture warehouse.
Oh, it was a furniture
Um,
warehouse. Oh my gosh.
except for I don't think anyone was
It was
using it.
so it was not zoned for living. They just
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Definitely
so
not. And
the first thing that comes out to my mind is you're you're choosing to live in this situation in a dangerous part of Philadelphia versus staying back with your dad.
yeah.
What was going on with you said he was angry at you being out, but I give me a little more, scale back a little bit, pull the curtain back a little more on that. What was it just a bad situation to be in that you'd rather get punched in the face by random North Philadelphia dudes than stay with your father? Give me a little bit more with that, please.
Well, I needed freedom, and I hadn't
Yeah.
really. I hadn't lived on my own at that point, and I've lived on my own since then. But yeah, that was like the first place I had to myself.
Okay.
you know,
And
I
that was
tried to get out whenever I could.
preferable to staying with so even at 22 even at 22 years old, your dad was still dadding you. He wouldn't like let
Yeah.
you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to let my dog out.
Oh, okay.
Barking.
So all right. So you're in North Philadelphia. Now, how are you supporting yourself at this time? Because you're a 22-year-old kid. So it's not like you can walk right into and be a manager of a bank at 22 years old. And then also you're doing comedy at right out the bat, which you're probably not getting paid for at all. So what kind of what was the how was the income? What was your life like? Give me a little bit about just surviving this. Forget about the circumstance you were in, but just surviving
A
the
lot of like restaurant jobs, that sort of thing.
uh-huh.
You know, nothing too fancy, but
Okay.
yeah, it was pretty tight though. I didn't have much going in, that's
Yeah,
for sure. But
yeah. Now even doing comedy costs money, you know what I mean, like even getting place to place and feeding yourself or whatever you had to do there, you know what I mean,
yeah.
like there's aspects of comedy that also cost money. What were How are you, if you're barely getting by just from the living standpoint, where was the extra money coming from to support these comedy things, or were you not doing comedy as often because of the cost factor?
Well, I mean, I was doing a lot of open mics, and
Okay.
I mean, in Philly, you don't have to like pay to go to an open mic, and there was a lot of them.
Yeah.
Music open mics. I went to a lot of those. There wasn't that many comedy open mics when I started, so there's a lot of music open mics.
Yeah.
And I don't really drink, so it's not like I'm out there.
Yeah.
I drink a little now sometimes when I'm at places, but yeah, then I wouldn't have a drop. But
Now you're starting to do comedy, starting out. Was your act similar? I'm sure it's way better now.
yeah,
But it's similar than it is now? Okay.
Yeah.
Did people get you?
I think so.
Because people get you now because you're good. Did people get you your style comedy then when you were not as good? Or they're like, what are we watching here?
Oh geez. It was hit or miss. I mean, I think just had to build up my stuff. I definitely had, I think, geez, I have to think. There's a couple jokes, not many, that I still use from then, but a couple that are still sort of floating around. But yeah, it was I was all over the place doing like different kinds of jokes. So I think people got it. I'm trying to think when I started doing really well. It's all kind of a blur now. I think I started getting good, and then I had this period where I wasn't as like, I would be coming up with stuff that wasn't as good, and then kind of got better after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the first time I remember the first time I saw you. It was at this bar in Delco. Gosh, I can't remember the name of it. It was run by Johnny Truelove. He had like a showcase. I remember seeing you. And I remember like I remember if I can remember correctly, like candidly, the first time I saw you, I was like, this guy is hilarious, but he was hilarious, like, and then like you just kept going and going. I was like, I don't know, I think he's just trying to work out stuff now. Like your first five was real tight, and then it was just like you were just keep going, and it was like you're just like throwing things at the audience and seeing what stuck. So I'm trying to think like what would you say has been the major difference to take you from day one comedy at 22 years old? What would you say was the biggest change, either how you wrote or how you it, or like something that you've done in that period of time that really made it click for you? What would you say that would be?
Like in terms of like finding a style. Well, I mean, I've found sort of a general. Well, I've found my material and how to feel it out. I have a better sense when I write something, and whether it would at least be somewhat funny, whether it's going to be really good or not. So I've gotten used to what that would be. I mean, I don't know, I feel like maybe I probably had some weird punchlines back in the day that didn't really like they were too confusing.
Yeah.
And now I can be like a little confusing or obtuse or weird, but you don't want to be straight up confusing. I don't want to be like an alt, like I don't want people to think of me too much of like an alt comic.
Yeah.
So I probably went through that phase. I probably went through the phase where I was a little more edge. And I probably went down and they just sort of found a center of all of those things probably. And sort of I'm all those things a little and none of them at the same time, kind of.
Yeah. Now, where did this style of these rapid fire one-liners come from? Because you're definitely the best at it in Philadelphia. I can't, there's other comics I can think of that are like more like like legends that have the same kind of like a Rodney Dangerfield or something like that. But you're more unique in the fact that your jokes there, it's kind of like what you said in the bio, which is like, man, it's really a labyrinth. We can be talking about abortion one minute and then your penis another moment. It's like, and it there has to be, where other maybe more traditional comics, there has to be like a segue and a flow and like bookends and that kind of thing. You take us on like a chaotic car ride that all seems to make sense. It's all very comforting in the moment, but man, there wasn't really a theme to what Joe was saying, in the last hour or whatnot. Tell me where that style came from, this kind of shotgun effect of jokes that just, hit all over the place kind of thing. Where did that derive from versus a traditional, like a joke that comic to tell stories or whatever?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't always watching as much stand up as everyone else. I mean, I don't know how much comics really watch stand up, if they all watch a lot of it, but I watched a lot of, I was like those Naked Gun movies, Airplane, those kind of the Zucker Brothers movies, Weird Al. They just keep, if you watch like the Eat It video, there's a joke every place there could be one.
Yeah.
One after the other, and it's just it's perfect. And it's like there could be, just put a joke anywhere where it could fit in as many as possible. Kind of seemed to be what I thought you were supposed to do in comedy. And sometimes I would see certain things on TV, and I would be like, there's not enough jokes in this. There needs to be more jokes in Friends or something,
Yeah.
Not to bash Friends, but
no, it's fine. I'm not a friend.
Taking enough.
This idea that this is what you thought you're supposed to do. This now delivery is style that you have conquered. Do you now go, now that you know that there's other options out there, do you ever feel the need to explore a different style out there, or will you always be known as, or do you feel that now you're pigeonholed as this one-liner comic, and if you were starting to tell a longer story or start to talk about your life or your views on gay marriage, people will be like, this is not the Joe Murdock I'm used to. I don't like it. I'm shutting down. Is that, what would you say?
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of, there's been times when I'm up there doing it and I'm like, man, this is a lot to remember and a lot to do, and I have to keep going.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish there was but it's just sort of naturally what I do. So, I mean, the best thing I can really do other than that is not anything to do with what I do with writing. It's more like I want to be in the moment and react to the energy with the audience and step outside of jokes when I can and riff with the audience a little bit, but sort of get back to jokes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that in the moment is something that is a perfect way to describe you. I mean, I can remember a few shows that you've done with me recently, and you're just naturally funny. I mean, at the end where you're just like what's the word? You're talking out loud about all the motions I'm doing. I'm not even picking up on it. It's like, is he gonna come get the microphone? I'm still waiting here. I'm still waiting. And he's like, is he gonna come get it? I'm gonna see. And it was just like, this stuff that's this in the moment style, this in the be in the moment is something that I have no ability of doing. I freak out if I'm in the moment. For me, if a chair were to fall or a glass were to break, I almost ignore it happening. What is it that you do? I mean, I'm sure your brain works at different speed than mine does, and maybe you're very more astute and can connect the funny faster. But when you're in the moment and something happens, tell me just what happens in that brain of yours, if you can.
Well, it has to just sort of be organic, and if I feel something going, then I have the option to go and step and do it, unless but I have a joke if not.
Yeah.
Obviously, but I was doing a show where somebody was moving a light, and it was like I had to oh, do you want me to stand over here? It's just it's as I'm telling jokes and I'm in the moment, it's just sort of, I feel it's more easy to just sort of be humorous than when I'm just being a serious person.
Yeah. Do you
normal person? When I'm being weird, it's like you can't stop it. So
I wouldn't say no. This whole thing with weird is, I wouldn't say, if I honestly thought before, I would say when I talk with Joe and I have discussions with him, it's not that it's weird. I would say I always thought that you just don't think that I'm not smart enough to talk to you. And so it's almost like you're humoring me, or like conversations that's very factual and like hey, what do you need from me? That kind of thing. Like that's more the perception I get. It's like, you and I are on the same intellectual wavelength that, the conversation gets a little, not rocky, but it's like very matter of fact, here's what we got to do. And then, at the end we'll meet up or whatever. So no, I wouldn't say
I
weird.
mean, certainly at a show, I'm certainly like that because I'm
Yeah.
like, thinking of my set and
Yeah.
and I know you're doing your thing too. So
Yeah. Now the one assumption I would have of you that you've never really talked, like we never really had a conversation about, and feel free, this is something you don't want to talk about or cut later, you can, as I would say, Joe definitely uses drugs at some point. Like I definitely get that perception, like weed or
haven't I mentioned that? I feel like
I mean, I don't always take what comics say on stage at face value either. Usually it's like, hey, it's perception.
True.
So what would you say?
I hadn't thought about that. That's the one thing I hadn't. I never thought that somebody would think I'm making that up.
Well, just because you have long hair and but and you're and you shift things,
Yeah.
doesn't make but that would be an assumption I have. Is that something that's true?
Yeah, I do. I smoke weed. Yeah, I smoke a lot of weed. Yeah.
Does that help you with jokes? You hear people talk about who was the comic that talks about, oh gosh, I can't remember who the comic was, but it's almost like that's part of their oh, Chanel Ali talks about she smoking weed is it's almost like a bridge to a joke. Like she'll use it as like a way to walk across and find a punchline somewhere. Do you use drugs
that might be true, and I think there was a time when I would say that because it would be a great way to justify smoking weed. But I think I just like it. When I would smoke weed before I go on stage, and people would be like, "Why would you do that?" I get nervous, and sometimes it's like, oh, is this something I'm doing because I need it before I go on stage to be, or is it just like I like doing comedy and I like doing hits of weed and that's probably really it. It might help me. I'm not sure. I mean,
do you ever catch yourself smoking and then
tall? Like, is that make me funny? I don't know. I've never been 3 feet tall. So
but do you ever catch yourself like smoking and then like writing or thinking of jokes at that point? Is it always more of a relaxation kind of tool?
I don't know. I think it's no, I do a little hits here and there, and I don't know if I'd really say I write more on it or no, I don't know.
Okay.
It's yeah, I don't know if I get like super creative from it, but maybe.
Now, when you did Philly's Funniest, and now you're in the finals, and it's a 10-minute set, and there's a lot of pressure. Did you get high before Philly's Funniest that way?
Yeah, sure.
Wow. Okay. So that now when you do a show like with me, are you getting high before a winery and
upstate? Yeah.
I was like, is it always before a show, or is it like in the more pressure that there is?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's always okay. I have no judgments with it whatsoever. It's actually quite fascinating because
no one has any judgment unless one show I did like in the last year where it didn't do so well, and the guy who was booking it did smell weed, and he thought I was like, oh, it's because you're high. Like, well, no, I tell you that has had no effect on it in the past.
All right.
Oh, actually, I did. Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
I can kind of roll back this because I did it was a very small show, and I hadn't smoked in a couple days, and so I smoked weed for the first time in a couple days on the show, and my tolerance was down, and that was not a good idea. Because my tolerance is down, and it's like what you would think, and what it's like. I guess it's what everybody was afraid was going to happen.
Yeah.
And maybe that would happen to them, but I smoke little hits here and there, almost like micro dosing, almost.
Yeah. Do you always see like weed being a part of your life, or do you like think of this being okay? Like I said, it's like I don't have any judgments with it. It's just interesting. Is like when I think of comics and the tools in their toolbox, some people will say drugs. It's not a majority of the ones I've talked to, and I was, it's always interesting to see. Hey, I'm not against it if it's a great tool that helps you get funnier. It's not, that you were saying like, yeah, do heroin. You're like, well, I want to see you live long, Joe, and see more bits come out, kind of deal. So,
Mhm.
but I have no issue with other stuff. But so when you're starting to do mics and you're doing these one-liners, how long are your open mic sets? Like, I'm assuming you're coming with like 2 or 3 jokes. Are you off? Are you on and off stage in 30 seconds because you went through your 3 jokes, or were you able to come with
Oh
5
no,
minute
I had
one-liners?
I had 5 minutes of jokes back then.
Okay.
I had enough. I had enough written down that I wanted to try out. I mean, I could go forever because I had no standard at the very
Yeah.
beginning. So, I had the stuff that was gonna be funny-ish that I was gonna keep for a little while until I found the real funny stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like always did a full set though. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what would you say that? Would you say when you say like until I find the funnier stuff? Or do you just like write as many liners as you possibly can, and you're going for like, hey, if I'm writing 100 one-liners in a month, I can tell like 10 to 15 of these are going to be really good. The other 85 are going to be shit. So I'm just is that you try to go for quantity, or do you take one of your lines? For instance, let's take the the joke that I love, the medium dick joke. Do you do you do you try it out multiple times and see how it works, or is it like, are you just trying to crank as many as you can and each joke gets one time and then it goes into the yes or no pile, then you hit the other one? Or do you marinate these a little bit from mic to
Well,
mic?
I'll try them a couple times and see, even if they do well the first couple times, that's going to be a long time sort of thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, I write whatever I can think of,
Mhm.
and just look at it when I'm trying them out and scoop up what feels like days later like it's a good idea,
Yeah.
and see if I can build off it, or you know or if I
When
have to
you say
kill it,
build off
or
it,
throw it back into the try again later thing.
okay.
There's a couple things that I can't let go, or couldn't let go at least in an open mic.
Yeah.
Um,
When you say build out more, first joke that comes to mind that you do of that I would say, because you're doing one line. So the first thing would be like, oh, he doesn't really build on these jokes because they're just set up, punch, set up, punch. But the abortion joke, because there's one,
true,
and
yeah.
then you hit them, you hit them with the McDonald's tag, and then you're coming in with a delivery tag. So when you have a joke like that, do you sit and you really focus on like, hey, let's see how many one lines I can do about abortion because this one abortion joke worked, or were those 3 different jokes about abortion like just randomly drop in at different timelines in your career, and
More
then
the latter on that one. I
okay,
think for some reason, or they just sort of happened. They just sort of, I don't know. I was like, oh wait, I kind of just came up with things in my head. I have to
yeah.
that one because I think that there's a certain logic to those specific jokes. At
Mhm.
least a couple of them, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That one just sort of, I just sort of had another idea. And actually, yeah, that one I think I just had different disparate parts that I kind of fit in
Mhm.
together. Um,
Okay. I
over
like it.
time.
I like, well, and then so tell me about where these how like these jokes come to you, because the medium joke medium dick joke, sorry about that, that's why I edit these. The medium dick joke is a play on words, which is really funny because the audience doesn't, the audience thinks that you're talking about one thing and then you throw another thing at them.
Yeah.
But then the the communion Jesus joke.
He was alive though. He used to bring me to the church. Man, that was great. I remember church. They gave me the host. They say, "This is the body of Christ. Eat it." Then they give you the wine. They say, "This is the blood of Christ. Drink it." Then you put your hand in the bowl of grapes, and they're like, "These are Jesus' eyes. This is his brains." It's great.
Joke. It's not a play on words joke. It's other different track. You're taking like almost 2 different orbs and you draw on this line to it that only Joe Murdock can. You know what I mean? It's incredible. Tell me how you are able to do that. And I don't know if you have a recent joke that you're working on right now. You can give an example, or if you want to talk about the communion Jesus joke. But how do you get communion and then that little thing that, the little Halloween activity that kids do? How did that come into your head and then tie that into a line that connects it to that makes absolute perfect sense to the audience?
The thing that sucks about a lot of these jokes is like they kind of form, and I know how they're forming once I form them, but once they're there, I don't know what the hell happened. Like, I can't gather up the forensic evidence. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I guess I just had a moment of where I was smart for a couple seconds, and that happened once and again. I try to write it down if I can.
Yeah.
I go back to being a moron, But
what is that you do?
I guess it's just that whole thing about, it just seemed like a haunted house. I guess I don't know. My brain.
Yeah.
I see some. Sometimes I make a joke, and I don't know. It's just something innate. Your brain kind of runs right towards something when like inspiration comes, and even you don't know how you thought of something.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I'm just trying to think, like, right now when you're working on new jokes, how does that work for you? Is it automatically where it's like communion, bowl of spaghetti, like it just comes at the same time? Or are you just like, man, I went to this fucking party and there was like, this kid in the grace in the eyes, like that seemed just totally weird. And then you're sitting there just like thinking about it, and you're, is it something like that? Or do they just kind of like pop into your head at the same, like just like a miracle just happened in Joe Murdock's head, and just or
a little
you...
bit of both. Sometimes you either think of something in the moment, all of a sudden out of nowhere, or I'm deliberating on something and I'm thinking and and then suddenly all of a sudden, I think of it inadvertently still.
Yeah.
But it can be a little tough to try to force it. Although sometimes if I force myself to write some stuff, then suddenly I start to get in that mood and write other things.
Do you have a recent example of something right now that just started working that you can kind of give me the genesis of, like a new joke where it just started to like, okay, it's no longer mush. Now it's starting to have some form and some definition to it. Just as a recent thing, so I can kind of get into your head about how this whole thing spawned. It doesn't have to be that good. I mean, I know we're on a web series and that kind of thing, but it's like I just want to see like how you're able to kind of make, from clay start to make a vase kind of thing, how that works.
Yeah, let me see. Oh geez, because I just did a set, or I tried out new jokes about. I did do some jokes. I tried to write some jokes about Batman.
Yeah.
He's trying to be like, well, he's a rich billionaire, and something about making it took him 10 years. Were they going 10 years to make Batman, and like were they going around shooting billionaires or something like that? You try to find the aspects of that sound like they might be good joke premises.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking a lot about that. What else? That joke? I can't even remember, but I know I have those new jokes that I'm working on, but now I'm not.
Well, let's talk about the abortion jokes, because let's talk about those ones, because this one fascinates me in the fact that this is the edgy kind of humor that you talked about. Was there was a point in time where you were edgy. I like. Tell me, it's very hard to tell an abortion joke. You're one of the few that can just really nail it. Tell me, did that joke work the first time, or as soon as you're joking about I literally saw a comic, and that comic was made. I was talking about abortion, and on the back goes, "Abortion's not a joke," in the back. So it's like, tell me, I'm very interested to see how this joke, if you can remember Genesis, and how it went kind of the first few times, and how you kind of got it to where it's like, bam, you're hitting it with the McDonald's tag, and bam, you're hitting it with the delivery joke. Tell me how, like, if you can remember how that kind of formed.
All right, had to shoot she wanted to get an abortion, but she was Republican, so she shot it instead. Right, yeah. I guess that's kind of my politics or something. Thinking that that's a hypocritical thing. That's the most political joke I've done, I guess.
Yeah. I love it. I love
Um,
that joke. Did you want to write a joke about abortion, or did something in your head just click with like, hey, I got this really funny joke about, the grossest thing you could do with my cum is have a baby with it. Was that it? And then, or were you like, I really want to write a joke about abortion?
oh, geez, that's a good question. I don't know where I kind of got in, but like you start to think of a thing, and either
Yeah.
you change it to it's about that,
Hmm.
or it's like that in the I don't know, just a kind of a twist when I was going through different subjects, and I think
Yeah.
I found that one to be a subject that I was working on,
Yeah.
and just a pun like die during the delivery. That's just a very punny pun
Yeah.
that I was.
Do you
I had a
get
couple jokes about jokes like that
yeah
that are wordplay about.
when you get do you get feedback at all from that joke that's negative, or have you crafted that joke to the point
Oh,
where you can talk? Oh, you do.
I mean, no one comes up to me after. Well, that's my feedback. Is no one. But yeah, I mean, it gets gotten a you know, most crowds are okay, but if they're kind of, I generally try to not get to that joke.
Yeah.
If I think I do other jokes if I feel like the crowd has a sensitivity to that sort of thing, that I'm like, okay, I don't think I want to do that one. But if I'm doing so terrible, if they all hate me, then I can do it. But if I'm doing really well with other dark stuff, just jokes that are just about death,
Yeah.
it's a good sort of way to lead in and know if the audience is ready for something like that and ready
Yeah.
for the more extreme stuff. Because I can't come out like that. I try
Yeah.
to.
Oh,
I've
I think
had
that joke is
since
just so good and it's so well written.
you
Do you know
cannot
it?
open.
Do you know how many iterations of that joke did you have to get through? Like, was it always the way I see it now in your Philly's Funniest clip, or did the first time you tell it was like, bam, this hit like a lead balloon, like, and now you gotta like think of something else, or did you know right away that whatever line you wrote for it was gonna be funny, or did you really not know going
um,
in?
I think I knew. I think I got laughs off a lot of those jokes early on, and I knew that they would work in a crowd that was ready for that level of dark comedy.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did I learn to like do a joke like that? Because it's true. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I definitely want it to be more silly and less
Mhm.
like real life. It's not like a start. Oh, it's
Yeah.
cartoony in that way. It's
Yeah.
and can exit. I can exit the premise whenever I need to,
Yeah.
so that I can go on to something more relaxed. But yeah, did I
Is
answer that question?
Well, let me throw this at you then. But maybe I think you did, and let me see. Are there other jokes that you do that I'm just blanking on right now that could be considered quote unquote sensitive or quote unquote controversial, and your idea of getting it by, like getting it past, is to make it cartoony? Do you have other jokes like that? Like if you take a less serious if you make it almost like totally
Right.
nutty. Like, have you do that with other jokes as well? Is that kind of the formula? I don't know if you have another joke
Uh,
that is sensitive that you could tell me right now. And like the punchline is totally bizarre, and that's how you get away with it. Have some jokes about death. I would consider death to be sensitive because it's hard to make death funny, especially in different crowds. Do you try to make a more cartoony, going back to your childhood of Three Stooges, Looney Toony, where like it's always bizarre, it's
yeah,
always not real life? Is that where you go with these kind of jokes about death and other things?
yeah, I think so. I think pretty much it's all silly and all
Hmm.
made up and nonsense. And I think by that point people know that. If I
Hmm.
just do like silly, nicer silly things,
Yeah.
and people know that as long as I don't go in hard too early on, then people think that might be the whole set, and then there's
Oh,
more, and people tighten up a little more.
yeah.
Than if they know you get around the whole like run the whole gambit of all the different kinds of jokes. But
Yeah.
but yeah,
Go ahead.
it's just yeah. I mean, if you're people, I mean, everyone's gonna die. Everybody's experienced,
Yeah.
you know, people dying. So it's not
Hmm.
too much of it's sensitive, but it's relatable sensitive, and
Yeah.
it's like it's a thing that we've learned to accept more than other things in life, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
And so it's a joking about it is a good like it's a good way to get a check on how much the audience is willing to take, and get them kind of emotionally ready for, you know, an abortion joke.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't like talking about things that are right there in the news,
Okay.
because then it's like how many days do I have on that before
Mhm.
it disappears?
Well, let me throw
Maybe
this
if I
at you.
post that shit up online, maybe.
Let me throw this at you because you are someone who has very, very good abortion jokes. The things that with Texas right now, where hey, it's like this state has now kind of pioneered a way to get around the law where it's like illegal. Have you thought of a way, or is there any like what would you do? You want to take approach to adding a tag based on that? Would your
I kind
approach
of
be
did.
what? Tell me about it.
Well, I don't know. I would do those abortion jokes, and then I'd
Mhm.
be like, yeah, I don't know if I could do those jokes you know, like I don't know, you know, might not be able to do that joke because people will be like, what's abortion? You know, won't get the reference. You know.
I like it. I get it. Now I wouldn't say that the punchline's funny, but I wouldn't say it's silly. I would say that's like as silly as
That's
going to
silly,
McDonald's.
yeah.
Um,
Betting, yeah.
because
But
I
it's
see.
you know, but again, it's a joke about, you know, how jokes work. So it's kind of just
Yeah,
like try during the delivery. It's the same sort of, you know.
yeah. Um, when you when you're telling these jokes and you have like these silly jokes like the communion joke and the you know the Jesus communion joke, and then you try to get into more serious material. Is it always something where you're trying to get a message across, or it's like, hey, I want to throw a joke about abortion, you know, and I'm gonna see if I can get away with it. It's more like, can I get away with this versus like I want the audience to know that abortion is like I'm pro-choice and this is a ridiculous kind of thing. I'm gonna illustrate that with this silly little joke. What is it?
Well, I probably would rather just be funny and not really try to have a point across. But if I'm thinking about something
Mm-hmm,
and I have an opinion about something and it
mm-hmm.
forms into a joke, that's how a opinion ends up in my set.
Okay.
Not like, oh, because I have opinions. I have so many opinions about things in the world today that are not funny at all.
Yeah.
Not kind of depressing to have opinions nowadays. But
Do you think that people don't want to hear your opinion, or do you think it's just like I don't know how
um,
to make my opinion funny?
I I guess it's kind of a little more the latter. I don't know if I can. It's just sort of not what I don't
Not
know.
your
I guess
brand.
when I'm thinking of, you know, the world issues, I'm not always. I guess I'm not always
Mhm,
turning that into it. I wish I had. There's definitely a period, and that was the time when I said I wasn't as funny as I went and
mhm,
got less. You know, because I felt like it had to be motivated
mhm.
by my opinion, but I think that was ill. That was a misguided kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I do, you know, I've talked about, you know, the cops or something and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
it's just sort of like, well, you know that the cops are, you know, police brutality exists, so here's a
yeah,
joke about it. Not, you know,
yeah.
and so I
Okay.
guess the nature of me, you know, like when I say like I have a joke about like RoboCop. That was a great film. Cops loved it too. They were the first people to see it. They were first in line. They wanted to beat the crowds, you know. And it's
I
it's
like
just
it.
a pun on the word, you know. It's not really. I
Yeah,
mean, it is
yeah,
my opinion, but
yeah. It's very clever.
it happened to become a joke, you know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have been like, oh, I got to say something about
yeah.
what cops are doing right now and turn it into the stupidest joke possible. That's not what I'm going for.
I like
But
it.
if a good opinion can be in there from time to time,
Yeah,
there's some message. It's a bonus. It's
yeah,
definitely, I don't mind it. Um,
yeah.
but I'm not like railing against anything really, you know.
Okay, okay. Now here you are. You're Philly. You're now the reigning champion of Philly's Funniest. Where do you go next now? You've mastered these very. You've mastered these very. I mean, and obviously you're going to keep doing it because there's an infinity amount of things that you can poke fun of that's not very obvious to us. But are there new challenges now that you want to take on? Now that there's a little leeway now as being Phillies, you're getting longer sets now. You're getting more prestigious sets. Like, are you looking to take on more challenges or stay the status quo, stay the course that you know is successful already, or are you looking to kind of, hey, what can I do to kind of see how I can grow a little bit here and there?
Well, I have been just trying to get on as much shows as I can. But getting out to New York, talking about starting to create some content with Dan Vetrano at some point. We
Okay.
don't know exactly what we're gonna do. Maybe I might put shows together. I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I should be doing other than
Yeah.
just stand up. I'm in search of that currently. So I'm still sort of wondering, but as of
Yeah.
right now, I'm staying the course of telling jokes and getting out there and probably post a little more online than I used to.
Yeah.
You know, I did want to maybe practice improv a little more because I used to do that for a little period of time.
Yeah.
That's good training. I don't know if I'd be a serious improviser,
Yeah.
but yeah, sometimes I think about it though. It's a fun, it's a good craft to do.
Hmm.
So I'm not really an actor, but a little bit, when you do improv, it's
Yeah.
pretty natural acting. So
Has the improv helped those be in the moment kind of times? Like,
sure,
has that?
sure, I did that for about a couple of years. I did that on a weekly basis. I had a improv group that I practiced with, and we had a coach,
Hmm.
and Dan Vetrano was part of that.
Okay.
And so yeah, that might be something to do. It does help. It does help because you just have to say something, and if you have to say something,
Hmm.
and you kind of keep it moving, that's always a good thing. That's
Yeah.
a good skill to train your brain to just keep going and then not overthink decisions, but have them be more organic, natural.
Yeah.
You know.
Now you've mentioned a couple times that like, hey, like, hey, I'm weird, this and that. Do you think that Philly's Funniest has now allowed you to kind of like fit within the comedy scene, or do you still see yourself as an outsider having to prove yourself every single time you take the mic?
Well, I mean, it has changed, like in terms of being in the scene. It does. That's a whole different thing. As far as getting, I mean, when I get on stage and and no one knows who I am. I don't feel too much pressure from being. Was that the question?
So
Or
I guess the question was like, it always seems like you feel like you're kind of like the outsider, whether
oh
it be like
right,
in
I'm sorry,
high
right,
school
you're right. I'm
or
sorry.
comedy.
Okay.
Like, do you
Uh,
still feel like that, or it's really
I
funny?
still do a little bit, yeah, because it's a very clicky. It can
Mhm,
be sometimes a lot of people with very tight groups, and I had a couple people like that for a certain period of time, and some of those people have either left,
mhm,
some of them quit doing comedy, and that's
mhm,
unfortunate. Um, but and so I see a lot of these places that have different people there.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, and even some of the people that I got along with, I've always kind of worked on other than being in an improv group, I've
Mhm.
always kind of worked on my own, had my own kind of thing. I wasn't always socializing. I'm learning to go to, Helium and try to socialize a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely am a little more solitary still. And then when
Yeah.
I go out, and that's why it's kind of good to go out to places like, Stroudsburg
Yeah.
or Hershey
Yeah.
or wherever. And then I'm in a city where people aren't even from Philly. So I'm like, I
Mhm.
feel, and I look at other comics that they're from other places and I don't
Yeah.
know them. They don't know, we're all equally outsiders. And that
Yeah.
kind of, it doesn't hurt, to feel, because like I kind of already feel like I'm out there on my own, even when I'm out in my own city sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Do you?
yeah, I guess
So, go ahead. Go ahead.
it is kind of a solitary kind of on my own thing. So I guess it's kind of a weird
Yeah.
life to live
Well,
in a good way, though.
yeah.
I like it.
So, okay. So you appreciate the solitary. You appreciate. So, I guess why is it? What about that you like? Have you always been that way, or is this something where like now that you're getting older or whatever, you're feeling like and just I just don't relate as well with these people, or have you always kind of had like this more um what's like an introvert kind of attitude? Call it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. I think so. That's just how I am. I'm just a little shy a little bit,
Mhm,
and certainly when I was like trying to get into things at Helium and stuff, and
mhm.
like that punchline, like people, how like people want to be on the in crowd, and they're not always wanting to welcome people in. Other comics
Yeah,
like to kind of have their kind of thing. So I used to feel a little more personal. Now it doesn't. I feel like, oh, it's always been this way, like closed off.
is
Um,
when you say you're going to Helium to like learn how to socialize, is that is that just because there's payoff in the business side where you're going to get more gigs that way, or is it more like I don't always want to be alone all the time and I want to like make it like is it both or one or the other or
it's good to kind of be in the scene and be there, be present, and be
Mhm.
part of things as much as I can. Hang out. There's a couple people I'll always talk to when I'm there.
Okay.
Um,
If you could change one thing about yourself, would you change anything?
sure. I'm just trying
Yeah.
not to be forgetful, maybe a little more organized. I
Okay.
don't know if I appear very disorganized on stage. Um,
Does does the
but
disorganization come into comedy? Like, are your jokes all in one place? Do you write your jokes out, or are they in
yeah,
notebooks, or how are your jokes quote unquote stored?
um, mostly on my phone, mostly on
Okay.
files that I save and back up. I'm pretty organized, but then at the same time, I just look at everything, kind of have it in my head, and it kind of sometimes goes. Sometimes I just do it out of order a little bit
Yeah. Okay.
as I feel, which is okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So
as
the
long as
majority
you
of
know
your
what you already did.
I was gonna say the majority of your jokes are on your phone. If your phone falls in the Schuylkill River, are you fucked? or is
Not
there?
really.
Okay.
Well, I back them up, and I mean, I probably by now I'm been practiced. I probably can just do 15, at least 15, 20, um, any given day, even if I'm not really like looked over my stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you work your jokes out in a notebook, or do you work your jokes out on stage? What's more,
um,
or on your phone? I'm sorry, on your phone.
more in the, I guess more in the notebook, and then they just sort of. But sometimes I'll come up with how to tell it on stage.
Yeah. Okay.
The moment.
So, is it a fair assessment that you'll see something that's like, this is interesting, and you put it in your phone, and then when you go to an open mic, you might pull your phone out and you see it, and then almost like the pressure forces you to come and connect to that other thing. Like, hey, maybe your phone says like communion, and then on stage, just the pressure of have eyeballs on you comes up with, and this is his eyes. Like, is that how it works, or are you working that out on your phone?
I probably work it out a little on my phone, but then
Okay.
once I get there, I'm like, I gotta make a choice of how to state it. And so yeah, I mean, I'll either like, oh, I think I know how to say this, or I just won't say it, and I'll have like a list of different things that I want to say.
Okay. Are you working? So it'd be. I'm not sure if I ever seen you work.
Honestly, I just look at like a list of like when I'm trying out new stuff. I just have like a list of stuff that I've written, and I kind of like look over the list a bunch of time and key in on it, and kind of save a couple ideas in my brain and try to pump them into the set.
Yeah. So when you work, remember. So when you work in something out on stage that you haven't really tried before, does it still fall in the setup punch, or will you start kind of like going down a rabbit hole with a joke to see what hits or not? Or will you keep to that, hey, I got this joke set up punch, it didn't work, I'm just going to move on to the next one? Or will you kind of hang on?
I'll go down a rabbit hole. I'll rip and see what comes out of me in the moment, especially if it's at an open mic and I just have a couple ideas I want to work out.
Okay.
Because there's no set way to do it yet. I'll kind of I'll be able to riff it a little more and find it in the moment. Yeah. So I mean, I guess I never write down the exact wording. I just sort of figure it out between, and then I guess when I say it on stage, I say it more economical, or or I cut it out of necessity when I'm up there. It's like I want to do that, but I can't because it's not formed. So,
are you naturally not wordy, or are you really wordy and you work on keeping your setups really tight?
I feel like if I can't, I think I'll have like an idea, and if it's too wordy, I just won't tell it. I just won't. If it can't be succinct, if I can't boil it down to a very quick joke, if it's too long of a setup, then it stays in the book.
Okay. Now, did your parents come and watch you on Philly's Funniest?
No.
Did you let them
my
know?
dad's in Jersey. He should. He's pretty close. He probably should come down, but
do they come to your shows?
No, I don't even know if I told them I was on the. I don't know if I told them I was doing Philly's Funniest actually.
Why not?
Because what if I didn't win?
I mean, you're the final 10. I mean, even if you didn't, it's still quite the accomplishment.
I might have posted something about it. I can't even remember, but I feel like I didn't tell. Yeah, I mean, not to like flex it, but like I was, a lot of people were like, "Hey, who wants my comp?" Yeah. And I like gave one comp to Greg Goldstein.
But don't you think your parents would have been proud of you for making it at least that far to the finals?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess
were you afraid they would say no? Was that you protecting yourself in case you're like, yeah, we're not interested?
I just didn't think of it. It's just something that I was doing, and I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I guess it was just I might have told them that I was in the finals or something. I can't even remember. It all
Oh,
kind of happened so quick, but
do
I
they come?
definitely didn't. I didn't post about it. Like a lot of people would be like, oh, I'm on this night and come see
Mhm.
me. I'm not that I'm saying people shouldn't do that,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just didn't want to be like, yep, go home after I got disqualified and be like, yeah, there's my, hey, come watch me lose. Like that's what it would have.
You have very negative perception of how things are going to go for you. Did you not think you were going to win Philly's Funniest when you were there, when you, after you did your set and you're walking off that little
No, I mean honestly, I did think I was gonna win. I was pretty confident, but I
yeah,
didn't want to say anything or make a
yeah,
big deal out of it
okay,
until it was a thing.
yeah,
Um, until it was something I had already done.
hmm,
Um, because it's just sort of, I don't know why that is. Not that I felt like I was jinxing it, although kind of.
hmm.
I just I just didn't want to make a big deal out of it.
Do your parents come to your shows?
Mm, my dad came to my hour a couple of years ago, but
Okay. What
but they're
how's
not
that
they're not in the city very often, so
how's that how's that vibe with you? Do you wish they would come to more shows? Or
um I'm not too concerned about it. They're welcome to come to it. Um, my mom lives kind of far away, so if she ever visits, maybe she can see me. But
oh, your mom doesn't come visit you?
she lives like 4 hours away right now, so she
What's
hasn't visited me in a while, and she hasn't seen me do stand up. I went and visited her. I don't want to do that. I mean, not that I don't want to do that again, but I think it's her turn. So, but
Interesting. So your parents are split up, it sounds like, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so did you live primarily with your father then after the
I
split?
lived with my mom for a long time.
Okay. And
Um,
so
and then moved with my dad because he's a little closer to Philly. So
so so you live with your mom for the majority of your growing up phase. Um, why haven't what's going on there where it's like I would think like you guys be super close. Why is it that she hasn't ever seen you do stand up or come visit you at least once a year?
a lot of driving, I guess. And I don't make big pressure out of it. Let's see, I have a brother that has a kid, and she doesn't. He's a little farther away. He's like on the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and she doesn't go out. I don't know. I feel like I'm just shitting on my parents now, but
No,
but
it's interesting. It's an interesting quality because from my standpoint, Joe, it sounds to me like that like you're you don't want to put pressure on them to come see you, but that's such a terrible thing to hear. I mean, it's like they're your parents. What like it's it's not like it'd be one thing if every time you saw them you're asking for money, but it's like, hey, you're their kid. What does it I'm not gonna say like how does it make you feel, but like does the lack of parents in your life make you feel shitty, or do you like
no.
the freedom of them
No, I
not just being
talk
in
to
your life?
them. I talk to them. I have nothing to compare it to, so I
Hmm.
kind of just it feels okay.
Hmm.
I don't take it personally. Um, yeah, they should want to come see me, but I guess maybe they feel I don't necessarily um worry about it too much. I mean, have your parents seen you do stand up?
Yeah, they're
Oh,
not
okay.
they're not that supportive, but they'll come. Now they're very COVID cautious. They're extreme. They haven't left the house at all. Um, so I would, with COVID aside, they do come. When I'm in Hershey, they would normally come to the Hershey shows. Um, what would you like them to come see you do comedy?
Sure, if they want to.
Sure, they want to. Well, Joe, I mean, you're I would, it's an interesting perspective right now I'm getting from you, because it's like you don't want to
Other
inconvenience
people
your
are there. I
parents.
mean, maybe if it's a really light room, I could use someone to come in and they can fill up the front.
So your mom's never seen you do stand up. Your dad's seen you do it one time?
Yeah, I think they've seen videos I put up, but yeah.
What have they said about it, of your act?
I don't know if they really. I mean, I think. I don't know if they've really said anything too much about it. They're happy for me that I'm doing well.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably my dad probably is more his sense of humor than my mom. Yeah, my mom. I don't know. I don't know if I would ask her, because kind of a point blank question like, "Do you think it's funny?" Because like she didn't think a lot of, she like watched like 4 seconds of Austin Powers and dismissed it when I was a kid. So I was like, yeah, I don't know if I care what you say in a way.
Yeah,
I mean, no
yeah,
offense, but like,
yeah. I mean,
if you don't find Austin Powers funny, geez, I don't know. I don't know. I
that's
should
true. That's a good point.
worry about your opinion. But I don't know. We did share some things. So we like the Golden Girls. My
Mhm.
mom liked. We used to watch Mystery Science Theater 3000. That's
Oh
like
yeah,
the coolest thing I
that's
watched
your
with my
wheelhouse,
mom.
dude. I can see you doing something that's your wheelhouse, dude. Like a Mystery
Yeah,
Science
I would.
movies and one-liners, dude. That's your fucking content right there, dude.
Yeah, that'd be the show I could probably write if somebody wanted me to come in and get involved in a TV show. That would be a great show to write. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I make my mom laugh over the phone when we're
Yeah.
talking, so maybe she'd find. I don't know. Like, I guess the reason why, maybe I'm an alien thinking this, but it's like they're my parents. I couldn't really trust their perception one way or the other to see it like unbiased. So,
What?
um,
So what?
the
When you
idea of coming and seeing me, yeah, I mean, that's a different thing from a parent. Like, they're not like, oh, this guy, I gotta check him out.
yeah.
So,
Well, no. I mean, I just don't know. Would you say that your parents support you?
yeah,
Okay. You.
they know that I really want it, and that I really care about it. And yeah, probably my dad definitely thinks I'm funny, and my mom probably thinks I'm funny.
What?
But
So when you told me earlier that growing up was a very like solitary existence for you, and even though you kind of liked it, was it almost like forced solitary, because it seems like there was such an estrangement with your mom and your dad? Like it wasn't like you guys didn't really relate to each other.
no, we it's not that we didn't relate to each other, but they're parents, we related enough, like I said. I mean, um I think, yeah, like we watched The Simpsons together, my mom, a couple things, so we shared a couple things. I watched Beavis and Butthead with my dad
So
because I wasn't allowed to watch them.
you guys
Yeah,
share
we have a couple
television and
things.
movies together. That's the
Couple
relationship.
things.
Okay.
As far as like I'm trying to find like a sense of humor sort of thing. I mean,
Hmm.
well, I think we probably do share it. My mom can be kind of sarcastic. My
Hmm.
mom could say a lot of stuff with a straight face that isn't true, and maybe
Yeah.
that's where I get that. Maybe
Hmm.
that's a possibility. And my dad's can be sometimes a very cynical guy, and he always, as a kid, made me laugh at like he used to say, you would laugh at anything that was about poop or pee as a kid, and yeah, he would basically just tell me stories that involved, like a guy on a log, and he
Yeah.
reaches over and there's a big piece of corn, or something like that. You know, he would tell me these poop stories or something, poop jokes, because it would make me laugh. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you? How old were you when your parents split up?
Too young. I don't remember them being together. I must have been like
Okay. I was
3 or
I was wondering if there was like a nurturing part after that, or it was like, yep, we're split, and you're kind of like got to deal with it. I didn't know what kind of like the relationship was like. They
No,
nurturing?
they kind of hated each other their whole life until I got older, and they kind of made peace with what's different. They're both adults now,
Okay.
kids. So, um,
Is there any aspect that you would want change with the current relationship with your parents, or you like it the way it is? With this kind of like we share movies together and we call each other and make each other laugh, and that's about it.
yeah, I mean, I think it's okay.
Okay.
Um, I never really put pressure on, my parents coming and seeing me do stand up.
Hmm.
I don't know if I mean, you've talked to a lot of comics and probably
Hmm.
asked them that question. Do most comics say that their parents have seen them do it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The ones that are
yeah.
still alive. Yeah. Yeah. I would say, I would say it's like my observation of this is like you don't want to inconvenience your parents, but you're telling me like stand up means so much to you. Like if I were to take stand up away from you, you'd be like, well, what's the fucking point of this? Like it means so much to you. Once your parents realize this and be like, it means so much to Joe, shouldn't we at least attempt to come see him once in a while? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know. No, she said something about coming and seeing me do stand up.
Mhm.
I think it's sort of just sort of how life goes, and my mom's far away, and
Mhm.
she probably come and see me, but I don't know. Yeah, I guess it is kind of a normal thing to have your parents come see you do something if you do
Mhm.
something live. But
Yeah.
I mean, I just think of all the random, people that I'm doing it in front of. So I
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Do you?
it's true. It's like a lot of people like that's what they would do in Philly's Funniest is they want to
Mhm.
get all their family to come out
Yeah.
and all their high school friends and
Did you see that? Did you see the
there's
other
probably at least
contenders?
that.
I was gonna say, did you see the other contenders of Philly's Funniest and their families are there and their friends are there, and then you look out into your crowd and it's just Greg Goldstein? Like, did that suck, or like did it get to you, or no? That's how you would want it. You would just want Greg.
No, uh, yeah. I mean, I don't even know if. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I really hadn't. I knew a lot of people do that. I felt
Mhm.
like I was the most worried about how I would just do in front of people. Um, Even if I could get all. I mean, there's people that have lived in Philadelphia their whole life and have
Mhm.
generations of family. So if I really, really went hard to get people to go to it, I could probably could have got my dad to come to it. I maybe could have gotten a couple cousins, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I probably could have got. All I could say is maybe my dad if I really was like, I really need you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everyone else is out somewhere in New Jersey, so I don't know if I would have been able to really do it. So with Greg, he sat up front. So when I was doing a set, I don't know, for some reason something in my head was like, did I do that joke before?
Yeah.
Did I tell that joke earlier? So I just looked over at Greg because I
Yeah.
felt like if I did, he would give me a look, or
Yeah.
he'd look panicked or something. He would communicate to me that you told that joke.
Yeah.
And when he didn't give me anything, literally, I'm just saying Greg not giving me
Yeah.
any signal was helpful, but it was helpful to know because I knew he was my friend, and if I was doing something wrong, then he
Yeah.
would have cued me somehow or been I felt bad because he's my friend and wanted me to win and would be concerned. But yeah, he was the one guy I kind of like
Yeah.
asked to come to the show.
Do you? Do you always feel that you're going to disappoint somebody, and that's why you put up that wall of like, I'm not going to ask you
No,
to come
I
see me?
wouldn't say.
Okay.
No, but it does. Yeah, I mean, you do kind of flash upon the ability, on the possibility of getting my all my cousins
Hmm.
and all my friends from way back when, and
Hmm.
everybody to come out and watch me lose. I would just rather, I would just, not that I'm afraid of it, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I should just do this and see how it goes. And if it goes well, then they'll know about it. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
they won't. I don't know. I was pretty confident in winning, but like preparing myself for the
Yeah.
emotional sort of slam if something went wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Who are you closer with, your parents or Greg Goldstein?
physically, I think Greg,
No,
but
no, not physically. Emotionally.
uh, well, geez, probably my parents. I known them
Okay.
for a while.
I mean, it's not lost on me that you asked one person to come see you at Philly's Funniest, and it's Greg. So I mean, nothing against Greg, but it's awesome he came to support you. It's just like, is this is Greg, the support system that you never had, kind of thing? Is Greg filling in the void of the people who never supported you, and Greg is kind of filling that void for you.
I mean, I think, am I the only person who never felt that like someone coming out to see me was the equivalent of support, that they couldn't support
Oh,
me
yeah.
in spirit? But I mean, Greg's like right in the city, so it's not too hard for him to make it there either. So, you know,
Fair enough. Um, when you won Philly's Funniest, what opportunities and doors opened because of that? Because I think what I liked about you winning was you were like a regular guy like I was. You weren't, you and I had been doing comedy like around the same time.
yeah,
I would see you at mics. It made you more real to me. I saw you doing mics at the shitty times and shitty places, just like everybody else. You, through your grit and your effort, you really earned it.
yeah.
So, have you seen opportunities arise from winning Philly's Funniest?
Yeah, yes, I have. The funny thing is, it's kind of, I'll never quite know, because like I'm more um let's see, bold, more like kind of I feel more confidence in approaching somebody for a show.
Hmm.
And I don't know how much of that. So when I get shows, I don't know how much of that was my confidence in pursuing it from Philly's Funniest, or whether somebody's like, well, he's Philly's Funniest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh
it's
yeah.
kind of gotten me that level of confidence where,
Good.
if I just had that level of confidence before, it would
Yeah.
probably have kind of but obviously one door is Helium,
Yeah.
and I'm hosting for Andy Woodhull, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
no,
Cool.
April 2nd. So yeah, I mean, I'm in there. It was so tough to even get on the mic
Yeah.
for years, and I go to that mic and I go week after week after week,
Yeah.
and when I finally go on, I'd crush, and
Yeah.
then I'd come back the next week and be like, no, they're not gonna
Yeah.
put me on again.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult. And sometimes I mean, I wouldn't. That's why I didn't enter the contest again for years, because I'm like, it's like a trick. That's the only
Yeah.
way I can get on stage. And then like,
Yeah.
finally, I'm just like, I'm gonna do this. Why the hell not?
If they were to invite back,
Almost everybody is like, what's the worst thing gonna happen? I lose. That's Everyone does that. I
yeah.
did that once.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I really was hoping to do better in my first round in my first year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. My last question that I have written down here is, now that you won Philly's Funniest, are you looking to stay in Philly, or do you see yourself moving West Coast or New York or Atlanta or something like
Maybe
that?
I'm definitely getting out to New York more. Sometimes I think that the West Coast might be a good place to go, but because it's so far away, I can't dabble in it. I can dabble in New York. I know how to get on in certain places in New York, and I have a place to crash when I go up to New York. So I think I'll be going up to New York more often. Probably long term probably want to move there.
Okay.
But just starting to get out there at first and just sort of find the lay of the land.
Okay. Nice. The other question I wrote down here was, when's the last time you physically saw your parents in person? I'm just curious.
Did you just come up with that one?
No, I wrote down that I overlooked it when I asked you.
Well, I saw my dad like right after the pandemic ended.
Okay.
And my mom 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
Something like that. Probably more like 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago. Geez, that's a long range, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, dude. Hey, it's perspective, man. I think that's why I like to interview comics, is that their lives are so interesting. I think anyone who's an artist, whether it's a comic or someone who sculpts or someone who's a musician, their backgrounds are a lot more interesting and appealing to me versus someone who gets into investment banking kind of deal. Do you think you're misunderstood, or do you think that people get you, that meet you, or see you?
I'm wondering how people felt when I won Philly's Funniest, and if that shifted any misconceptions. Because I was in the scene for. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I'm not trying to track who all won Philly's Funniest. It seems like I was like hanging around longer, and just win it out of nowhere than a lot of people. So I don't know. I feel like, well, I don't think anyone was like, they bet at Helium. Apparently they have like a pool to see who they think's gonna win. And I never really asked, but I'm like, I wonder if maybe just one insane person there like took off with everybody's money that night, because like I don't think anyone was thinking it was gonna be me. They should, but I don't know. I think that the whole misconception is that I wouldn't have won. Maybe that was a misconception, and now that doesn't exist. I'm not sure. I think people are. If I'm to guess, I think people are not making assumptions about me. They feel like if they don't know me, they don't know me. I mean, nobody thinks I'm a jerk, right?
No, I never think you're a jerk. Do you feel like you're still like do you still feel that you're not getting the credit that's due? Do you still feel like, we're based on your resume, your comedy resume, there should be these different opportunities that are currently being presented to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that I try to get done that take a little more doing than I feel like they should. But then I don't know if that's just how things are, and because everybody's kind of being looked at like, everybody's kind of pushing against, the resistance of other people to put them on, or to give them something, or involve them in something.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I have for the most part the respect from people. Yeah, I think people appreciate what I do.
Good, man. Well, dude, this was an absolute blast talking to you. We did it. We got through 2 hours. I don't know if you were. Usually when I send it out like this is gonna be a 2-hour interview, people are like, "Oh my god." But I hope you had fun. I had a great time learning about you, Joe. I think you're fascinating.
Oh, thank you. I hope I gave good answers.
You did. Yeah, no, don't. You put a lot of pressure on yourself, Joe. You put a lot of pressure, like, to deliver good every time. This is just about you, man. I'm just very interested in knowing more about you. I respect your level of comedy. I respect how your jokes come up. You do something that I can never do. Your level of talent it far exceeds, you know, my ability and in many comedians that I see his ability. So it's nice to get in your head and lounge around in your mind for a little bit. So I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just try to do my style of comedy. It's like the only thing you can really do is be yourself.
Yeah.
You can't compete with trying to be, you know,
Yeah.
this type of comic, because they'll never be,
Mm-hmm.
Dave Chappelle. If somebody wants to be that, no, you got to be you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I definitely follow my own star on that.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, take care. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And your answers and your willingness to do this. And I know I'll see you definitely in May, but I hope to see you sooner than that. So
Okay, I'll see you then. Okay.
yeah, you're down with me and Hershey.
All right.
So. Take care, buddy. I'll see you later.
Okay,
Thank you again. Take care, bud.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
You too. All right, bye. Good night.
Good night.